Think of some of the best teams of all time. Think of like the 95-96 Bulls, the 86-87 Lakers, the Bad Boy Pistons, the Popovich Spurs. You get what I mean. Now when you think about these teams, what do you think about? You think of the stars like the Michael Jordans, the Magic Johnsons, the Tim Duncans, etc. What if I told you that these guys weren't the only main contributor to their success? You think I'm a little bit crazy, and to be honest with you, I'm thinking the exact same thing right now. But it's in my belief that although these players are the main focal point in the team, what can make or break the success of a team is not the superstar that can get you 30 a night, but the first guy to come off the bench, the guy called the sixth man. In today's video, I want to dive deep into the history of the sixth man, how the sixth man has changed over the years, and how the sixth man can lead to success and how it looks today in the modern NBA. If you're new around here, I'd greatly appreciate if you could support my channel. This could be by liking the video, subscribing to my channel, or even just leaving a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Any help would be greatly appreciated. This is TH Sports giving you the importance of the sixth man. Now if you stuck around so far, you're probably just waiting to give it to me. How is someone like Tony Kukoc more important than Michael Jordan? Or if they're so good, they'd be starting. Now these aren't horrible points by any means. Actually, they're quite valid. But the sixth man has evolved so much since the early days of basketball. In the early days, hey, even in the modern NBA, the best 5 players are on the team will be lining up at the start of the match, 1 to 5. The first person to be credited as the creator of the sixth man is legendary Boston Celtics coach, Red Auerbach. This man was credited for so many things that are so vital in the NBA that have really shaped the game, and one of them was being the sixth man role. The first player to officially play this role was Frank Ramsey. Now Ramsey was one of the best players for the Celtics at the time, but preferred to come off the bench saying he felt more comfortable coming off the bench. It also made it a lot easier. He could usually come on to replace his Hall of Fame teammates, Bob Cousy and Bill Sharman. Ramsey would come on, put points on the board while his MVP teammates had a rest, and keep that pace up for the team. So how successful was this? Well, during Ramsey's 11-year career, he was able to win 7 titles and average around 13 points per game off the bench. Game started wasn't a stat, so I'm just assuming he spent most games coming off the bench. I should also mention that they also had one of the best bigs of all time in Bill Russell. However, towards the end of Ramsey's career, a new fresh face joined the locker room and would revolutionise an already revolutionised role. That player that would take Ramsey's place as the Boston Celtics sixth man was none other than John Havlicek. John took the sixth man role and ran with it. From his first season until the end of the 1969 season, Havlicek would come off the bench for the Celtics and even led the team in scoring in just his second year. While Ramsey was more of a straight scorer off the bench, Havlicek could do it all. At 6'5" and being very skillful with the ball, he could play many positions on the court. He could score whenever he wanted, was a decent playmaker, and could set up his teammates. And the dude could defend. Oh, and the man was clutch too. During his time coming off the bench for the Celtics, he was able to be a 4-time All-Star, 3 All-NBA second team, and win 6 NBA titles, all while averaging around 20 points. Now Havlicek would go on to do more than what was previously mentioned when he eventually started for the Celtics, but the most team success came when Havlicek came on the bench, and they were never able to replicate the same amount of dominance since. Okay, so that was the beginning of the dominant sixth man. So how did the sixth man evolve after the Celtics dynasty of the 60s? Well, if you look at the results of almost every dynasty, you'll find that the team had a sixth man who was an integral part of the team. Each sixth man playing a different role compared to the next. The 80s Lakers had Michael Cooper. Not a prolific scorer like the rest of the guys, only averaging less than 10 points over his entire career, but an amazing defender and managed to make 8 All-NBA defensive teams and a Defensive Player of the Year in 1987 to go along with his 5 championship rings, all while coming off the bench. Their fierce rivals, the Boston Celtics, who started the six-man craze, had Kevin McHale. He would go on to be the Sixth Man of the Year 2 times and would win 2 rings as a bench player, one as a starter. McHale was a prolific post scorer and a dominant shot blocker. He had averaged around 20 points off the bench. The Bad Boy Pistons would have Dennis Rodman, a defensive and rebounding menace. Rodman started off with the Pistons as someone who could come off the bench and just be an absolute hustle guy, diving for the ball, grabbing every rebound, and just making sure very few guys would get past him. Now we go on and on about how the sixth man has helped many teams win an NBA championship. But you know, not every team that has won a championship have had a standout sixth man. Like the first Bulls 3-peat, led by Michael Jordan, didn't have an amazing sixth man. The Shaq and Kobe Lakers didn't have one either. Or any of the LeBron championship teams. But I feel like these guys are exceptions. Like when you talk about the greatest players of all time, you'll usually see these guys in the top 10, even top 5. If they're on the court in the playoffs, they're going to play almost every minute and have the ball majority of the time, making it really hard for a sixth man to really make any impact. So what in particular makes a sixth man stand out? And why do they help a team win a game off the bench rather than being with the starting 5? Because that's who spends majority of the time on the court, right? Well, yes, but no. When you've got a good six man, he'll spend more time on the court than the guy starting ahead of him. But when the six man comes on the court, it creates a different dynamic. The stars can't stay on the court forever. They get tired, they need a rest. If you've got a team that likes to play their stars all the time, a good six man can take real advantage of this. Take Manu Ginobili for example. He could have started on just about any team in the NBA during his prime. But because his teammate Tony Parker also throve with the ball, he felt like it would be better to come off the bench. Now you could argue who was the better player, but there's no doubt who was better off the bench. Manu brought a different game than Tony, which brought a different game for the Spurs, which throws a spanner in the works for teams that just got used to how Tony played, because now they've got to deal with Manu. Manu excelled at coming off the bench, seeing the weaknesses of the team, and just attacking them. The success really speaks for itself. I mean, 4 championships over a period of 11 years is quite remarkable. It just goes to show when an amazing player sacrifices some of their pride and ego for the better of the team, it can really pay dividends in the end. The six man still lives on today, many years since it was first brought in by Red Auerbach. The thing is that today, there isn't really a stereotypical six man. I mean, not even every team has that six man that can keep that intensity up for their team when the starters need some rest. But there are some good examples of players that can keep that intensity or even change up the game. The reigning six man of the year, Jordan Clarkson, is a prime example of that. Utah's Jazz starting lineup is a really strong lineup. Although you could argue that the team on paper would be better if Clarkson started, the players starting fill their role perfectly and adds that structure to a start of a game. Once players get subbed out, in comes Clarkson. And although Jazz are still structured, Clarkson brings in more flair and unpredictability that pretty much switches a completely different game to the floor, which forces the defenses to switch up their strategies and causes more confusion. Another guy who is performing well in a six-man role is one of my favourite all-time players in Paddy Mills. While Mills has the ability and skills to be a solid starter for a fair amount of teams, he sees his value as a microwave guy. Rather than being the main focal point of the offense, Mills will find space and get his shots off whenever he gets the chance. Although being a microwave guy, he is prone to have off nights. But when he's on, and even started off the year making 10 straight three-pointers. And then you have the new kid on the block, Tyler Hero. He's averaging around 21 points this season coming off the bench. I see him in the mold of being able to do it all off the bench, at least offensively. It could really help Miami go far this season. But I don't think he'll be content with staying in on an off-the-bench role. And I can't really blame him, because he's such a talented player who can find many ways to get a shot off. So is it fair to say that the sixth man is here to stay? Well, of course. As long as there's 5 men on the basketball court and the bench, there'll always be a need for a good sixth man. But do I think the days of having an all-star caliber player to be able to take an off-the-bench role is dwindling? Yeah, sort of. We're now in an era of marketability. Players want to start to get more attention, to get more money, at the end of the day. Players are less likely to sacrifice a chance to start for the benefit of the team's success. Then you see teams like the Lakers and the Nets, where you have all these star players, yet not enough ball. So personally, yeah, I'd like to see more star players embrace an off-the-bench role, just to change it up. Like I said before, it doesn't mean less minutes, it just means that you won't have the extra hype of being called out as a starter. Now I'm no one really, and what I'm saying is probably gibberish to some, but I really do believe that having a great sixth man does help and lead a team to a championship just as much as the all-star starter. Thanks for watching guys, any support would be greatly appreciated. And also, sorry if I left out one of your favourite six men, so if you have a favourite, let me know down below, and what separates them from the rest. Anyway, have a good one.